Namaste to all of you, some of my old friends, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to address these sessions most of the time. And as I start, I recollect one of the wherein I was privileged to be part of a 12-member committee team members with late Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Azad. Many of you have already heard this from me in any of the other sessions whenever I have spoken. But for the privilege of others who may not be aware, I think two key takeaways that I got from Sir was, one, he perceived and believed that there is a tremendous opportunity in India that have to be taken care of from the education front. And the other larger story that he wanted was that India must become self-dependent on affordable health care. And the second part, I still recollect that day when we were 12 members sitting with the late president. It was a very strong focus that he wanted to lay down, stating that unless we really bring affordable health care in the Indian ecosystem, India cannot really move ahead to bring a cognitive understanding of the healthcare. There is where 27 years ago Zota Healthcare was born, to ensure that we build a plethora of the generic market in the Indian land. As it was there was a larger story that was built close to around 3 years from now by the brand named Davaindia, if many of you have seen. This specific brand, Davaindia, is pioneering the land of India to ensure that it offers affordable health care in the ecosystem. Whilst the previous speakers have spoken, and we are all aware that India is a leading pharmacy manufacturing market, whilst we manufacture and export, when we talk of numbers of United States of America, of United Kingdom, being a complete generic market, meaning which 91% of the movement of the medicines that happens from US or UK is 72-73%, goes from a generic perspective. Rethink back, what are the numbers that we see in India? In spite of the mandates that goes to the hospitals, both for the OP and the IP pharmacies, still we see that the brands moves around. I think it's time that India need to really understand that the healthcare costs, along with some of the other costs, have shot very high. And there is where the birth of Davaindia came forward. We know the kind of cost structures that the insurance premiums have. Our friends out here who have aged parents, they know that what kind of shell out of the insurance values that goes through. What kind of cost that a chronic disease patient can actually undergo, whether it's peds, nephro, gastro, cardiac, it could be anything. And there is where the cost of affordable healthcare comes into purview. And there is where Davaindia plays a very strong strategic role, having more than 750 stores all across the country, been evenly spread across, and with a mission to have 5x numbers going forward in the next 2 years. But what is the bigger challenge for many of such kind of organization? In fact, during the lunch breaks, when some of you spoke to me, how to actually convert a family-driven organization to a corporate entity, and that's part of today's actual subject. That's where the challenge lies. India, by far, have been extremely successful in family-driven organizations when it actually moved on to get into a corporate professional entity. So anyone like us, who kind of get into these kind of journeys, ensures that whilst there is a strong mandate to grow the organization, because that's inevitably the most important parameter and purview, the most larger priorities is how you can build a great culture and ecosystem to ensure that the company actually changes and manifests into the level that it aspires for to become a global organization. Whilst that's a task by itself, for simple reason that we work with people and not with computers that you just roll out a program or a command and people changes, which does not happen. And I am sure most of you who are part of this kind of ecosystem would understand and echo with what I'm trying to say. So there is where you have a lot of action plans that have to be done, well thought, and subtly inoculated towards the people, along with ensuring that you optimize to bring the right kind of talents in the organization who can also drive the organization to the next level. So it's always a dual fold of activity that is been encountered, whether in the Indian soil or at the global environment, when a family-driven organization ultimately plans and aspires to convert itself into a complete corporatization model. Whilst we play this card carefully, we also ensure that these cards are being crafted to understand that the end consumer need to get the largest amount of benefit, and there is where we, as at an organizational level, operate in a plethora where the end consumers get the best of affordable healthcare generic medicines at a most pocket-friendly cost. We, at Davaindia, ensure that we have flagged out multiple different models in the pharma ecosystem, especially that I come from a complete pharma retail background, being part of not only the largest organization that India have, but also the largest retail pharmacy chain that the country has, that we have ensured that when we craft such kind of models, be it the purview of B2B, B2C, or the retail brick and mortar with a hyper-local model of online, it need to be ensured that the end consumer gets the desired amount of medicines in the optimal rate at the desired speed. There is where the supply chain management comes and plays a very critical role, along with the IT integrations of AI that we have built in. At an organizational level, there is tremendous efforts that have to go in right from the processes as well as the flow of movement. Whilst many people speak about only process and SOP, but what is actually more important is to ensure that whether the organization is ready and right to implement those kind of processes. We have seen that there are organizations who have just rolled out SOPs and processes without the organization being practically ready. And there is where the challenge happens. Whilst processes are great in books and papers, but when the implementation comes, that's the most weakest field that comes into place. And there is where the change management comes in place. So whilst it's a twofold spear that one have to handle, along with the existing set of people who have been in the organization and the new set of fresh blood that comes into the organization. There are differences of opinions which have to be handled in its own methodology. Along with that, there is a complete plethora of market equilibrium that need to be taken into consideration. With the plans that we have laid forward, as what I have mentioned, the number of stores that we have in the brick and mortar model all across the country, there is a tremendous growth, and every day there is one store that is getting added in the country. Now this number is expected to go to a 3x numbers in the coming financial year, meaning which there is a clear plan chart out for a major expansion with the numbers that I have spoken so far. So far, till date, we have catered to more than 1 crore of patients with high-quality generic medicine. And the moment the number goes to 3x, the numbers are easily calculatable. With that, I would leave the forum open, giving you a brief snapshot how actually the entire pharma trend of retail is being moved forward at our organization, and how the organization, along with it being consumer-centric and customer-centric, is working out to build cutting-edge technologies, right from information technology, right from getting into the best of resources that the country have, and also working out on a close knit with the end consumers to ensure that we are not only present in the urban and rural, but we are present in across the last mile villages, where even there is a huge shortage of not only medicine, but there is a huge shortage of understanding of the affordability of the medicines, because these are the places where we have seen that if a prescription is rolled out to the end patient, the patients are so poor that they really cannot afford a morning, afternoon, evening dosage, and they compromise and take maybe either only in the morning or maybe one time a day. And I'm sure people who have worked in that last mile village, they can understand and echo with what I state. And there is where we are playing a pivotal role to work with the last mile village panchayats, similar and more, to ensure that there we have the small stores and it becomes a talk of the village. It becomes that purview where none of the villages or the last mile should say that they cannot afford the medicine, and that's the cost structures that we have built onto. With that mission, at an organization level, we are anyway quite flamboyant in our exports, in catering to the movement of a global arena. We are there in all the metro cities now, all across. Many of you have seen our flagship stores, our high street stores, and the new format that we are rolling out is at the last mile villages, so that we can actually cut through the entire equilibrium of the land of India, and thereby we aspire that none of the people in the country should again go back to the scenario that they cannot consume medicine because of cost. It's important that all of us work towards the similar kind of goal and build a better Indian healthcare ecosystem. Thank you so much. I'm open to any questions that you may have.